Welcome back to The Fault in the Right, a series where I explore the logical fallacies and dishonest posturing of right-wing politics from the perspective of someone who is pro-order, pro-family, and understands the value of tradition. Much has been said about the idea that the left represents chaos and the right represents order. Let's look at the idea that the left represents chaos first. Historically, this was certainly not true. Nobody would think that FDR represented chaos, even though he was arguably the most left-wing president in American history. President Obama was also significantly to the left of center back in 2008 when he was elected, yet he clearly didn't represent chaos. On the other hand, the 2010s Western left, deeply inspired by postmodern critical theory and anarchist philosophy, did represent chaos. Deplatforming speakers was chaos. Trying to deconstruct everything was chaos. Invalidating all tradition and hierarchy was clearly a recipe for chaos. Defunding the police would predictably lead to chaos. Much of what happened during BLM 2020, especially things like Chaz, were total chaos without any constructive upside whatsoever. Therefore, my conclusion is that the idea that the left represents chaos while the right represents order was an invention of the 2010s, when some parts of the left regrettably decided to embrace an ideology that led to chaos, and the right took the self-congratulatory attitude that they were better because they at least stood for order. However, while order is generally preferable to chaos, all order is not equally good, because there is a difference between ordered liberty and ordered oppression, just as there is a difference between just and unjust order, productive and counterproductive order, adaptive and maladaptive order, and so on. Therefore, we should strive to promote good order, and not just the existence of order itself. The question then becomes, what leads to good order? History shows us that things like rationality, objectivity, honesty, compassion, and compromise are conducive to good order, while things like tribalism, deceit, irrationality, and hypocrisy lead to bad order. An honest assessment of recent right-wing Western politics would show that it has not been doing very much to promote what leads to good order, while it has been doing much more to promote what leads to bad order. This is why the result of right-wing politics has generally been an unjust and at times oppressive kind of order, rather than the good kind of order. This in turn has led many people to not just reject the bad order that has been created by right-wing politics, but even embrace the chaos of the postmodern left to burn it all down. This indeed is the story of Western society and culture for at least the past 60 years. The oppressiveness of right-wing order ultimately leads people to want to burn it all down eventually, which leads to more and more chaos over time. This is why supporting the right as it exists would only bring about more chaos down the road. An order that is so bad that it leads to a significant number of people preferring chaos is clearly not sustainable. Only a good order is sustainable, especially in the long run. The question we need to ask here is, why does right-wing politics as it exists tend to promote bad order? The answer lies in the incentives, as well as the forces that are part of the right-wing coalition. Let's talk about the incentives first. Right-wing politics has long marketed itself to voters who are motivated by fear. This is why the right has run many campaigns of moral panic. However, moral panics lead to heightened emotions, irrationality, tribalism, loss of objectivity and balance, and a reduced capacity to be compassionate or to seek compromise. Hence, what an election strategist might consider good for their party ends up being harmful for society as a whole in the longer run. It's like eating lots of junk food every day. It might feel good for a while, but eventually you feel the health effects. The situation here is frankly getting worse because of the rise of online influencer culture. Right-wing influencers have unleashed coordinated moral panic campaigns that are more emotionally intense than anything the traditional media was ever capable of. The collective bias in the framing of the issues increases exponentially as they feed off and build upon each other's narratives. I'm worried that this is turning more and more people towards extremist politics as a result. And then there's the matter of which forces having the power and money within the right. For example, the religious right's worldview and policies might not be very popular, and most of them probably would not pass a referendum. However, they have a significant amount of power and represent a substantial proportion of donors within the political right. This is why the right can't drop its religious authoritarians, even as they make it very difficult for the right to gain support among young people, especially young women. The fact that the Trump campaign started out as clearly not very religious back in 2016, but has gotten more and more religious over time, demonstrates the power the religious right has over the Republican Party. The religious right promotes certain things, like hardline anti-LGBT ideology, that don't lead to good order objectively, because of their theological commitments. The fact that the electorate has increasingly rejected religious-motivated policies has only caused these policy stances to be promoted and enacted via dishonest means, which moves society further away from good order. Another example is the fossil fuel lobby. Again, climate issues are a major reason for the right being unpopular among young people, and that they still can't fix this by taking climate change seriously just shows the power of the fossil fuel lobby within the right. The vested interest of the fossil fuel lobby prevents any action to address climate change, which then necessitates the promotion of a climate denialist belief system that flies in the face of objective scientific evidence. This violation of both honesty and objectivity clearly does not serve the cause of good order at all. But then, political power and the interests of big donors sometimes conflict with the requirements of good order, and the right has shown that they will choose power and money every time. In conclusion, while the left has regrettably represented chaos in recent years, you wouldn't find good order on the right either. You wouldn't find good order on the right because it ultimately prefers winning elections, being in power, and getting lots of donor money instead. The right has made the ultimate bargain with the devil again and again, doing things that are deleterious to good order in exchange for advancing their own selfish interests. Given that bad order is unsustainable and will ultimately give way to chaos, the right then ultimately promotes chaos too, especially in the long term. Therefore, if you don't want chaos, the only way is to reject both the left and the right, and commit to the mental independence required to secure the conditions that are conducive to good order. If more people are willing to choose this path, then we will have good order. I can't see any other way, to be honest.